welcome to Bencher Movie Club. My name is Ben.
And I'm Charlie.
Today we're going to be talking about the 1975 cult classic, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, starring Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, Richard O'Brien, Patricia Quinn, and Little Nell, and Meatloaf.
Right, this film, the first time I see this film, first time I remember seeing it properly, I think I might have seen the end of it at some point, whether you had it taped or something. I just remember seeing the end and thinking, oh, it's really weird. Like, on spoilers, by the way, when he's getting killed, when Frank-N-Furter gets shot, and it's really freaky. That is totally out of context. And then it might have been a couple of years later that from down the market or something, whether it was you or Mum had bought a VHS Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it had this little crappy drawing on the front.
Yeah, it was like a cartoony picture, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that. And I've never seen that cover since. No,
I think it was literally for that VHS, someone must have done it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, it's still not really what you consider a mainstream film. It's the epitome of cult classic, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
If someone says name a cult classic film, this is on the list, this is at the top. And I must have been about 10, maybe 12. So Rosie would have been about 10 or 8, and we was all sitting around the telly watching it, loving it. And we all loved it. And I remember Rosie used to sing that Touch Me song all the time. And you think...
You don't realise when you're a kid, you sing words to songs.
Touch me.
Yeah, but you don't realise what the implications are with stuff like that. I mean, with myself, when I first see it, it was the kind of thing that I used to be like flicking over the channels. I think we only had like 4 channels in them days. And I caught it like halfway through, and it was like, oh, like, what's this I'm watching? It was like quite
naughty.
Yeah, it was like, if anyone had walked in, I'd have had to turn it off kind of thing. It felt like almost like you're sort of caught watching porn. It's not like that at all, obviously, but it's just it was so out there, and it was so like, wow, what is this about? It was just really strange. It was just unlike anything else I'd ever seen.
And it still is out there, because there's nothing been made like it since.
No.
You imagine if it came out next week, if it had never been released and it came out next week, people would be, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this weird film? Is this pushing the narrative too far?
Yeah.
But no, it's fantastic, and it's predates all this sort of like empowerment movement they've got on at the moment. Like, you just feel uncomfortable around us. Well, no, because we've seen Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
We've seen it in extreme. We've seen it done well.
Yeah.
With confidence.
Yeah.
Because Tim Curry, who I don't think he's ever outed himself.
I don't think he is. I don't think he's gay.
I don't know. He's never specified.
I think with Tim Curry, he's one of the very few that's kept their private life very private. Like, you don't know about anything to do with his life. He's managed to separate his stardom with his private life, because you don't know anything. You don't know if he's married, if he had kids. I assume he hasn't had kids. I'm sure we would have heard. But what his relationship status was, or is, and that's a good thing that he has managed to separate the two. I mean, he's amazing in this. I mean, he's just the ultimate Frank-N-Furter. You could not better that performance. If anyone done that, no one would go, that's better than Tim Curry's version, because Tim Curry made that role so iconic that you would not, anyone else even try to do it, even if they was brilliant, they would never come close to Tim Curry. And I'm sure everyone would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, Mick Jagger famously wanted to play Frank-N-Furter.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And thankfully they turned him down in favour of Tim Curry, because you must have imagined 1975 was the peak Rolling Stones era.
Yeah.
So they could have easily gone, let's get Mick Jagger in, because with that we're now going to get The World and His Wife wants to watch this film.
Yeah.
Because Tim Curry hadn't done anything.
No.
He was a stage actor.
Yeah.
This was his movie debut.
Yeah.
And you think, when it comes to people's movie debuts, you think of all the actors. I remember... Actresses wise, I remember the first time you see Cameron Diaz in The Mask. You got this famous scene where you see her legs. The camera pans up her legs, and you see her standing up, and she was stunning.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wow. And she basically had a career off of that opening scene.
Yeah.
Tim Curry's entrance beats everything hands down. Because you got to think, before that, he'd never been seen on film.
No.
All of a sudden, he comes down the lift, and the confidence that he has.
Yeah.
that's amazing for someone to... Knowing myself dressing up as Frank-N-Furter for one of your parties.
Dress party, yeah.
And I said, right, I'll do the time warp. We can all dance the time warp. That's fine. I'm not doing Sweet Transvestite. And I just got upstairs to take the heels off because they were killing my feet. They didn't have men's heels, so I was curled up my feet into like the biggest women's shoes I could find. And I'd just taken them off, and you go, Charlie, come downstairs. I was like, oh. And I came down, and I could hear Sweet Transvestite playing from your jukebox, and everyone gathered round. And I was like, oh,
you had to do it.
I had to do it, but you see, I swiggered like a bit of vodka or something, get a bit of Dutch courage before I done it.
Yeah.
And even then, like once you're getting into it, it's fun and everything, but you think the confidence that he has.
Oh, yeah.
How he sort of effortlessly sort of seduces like men and women, and how he sort of intimidates them as well.
Yeah.
Because, traditionally you'd have thought someone in drag wouldn't be physically intimidating, but he sort of like towers over Brad.
Yeah.
Of Rocky's scared of him. Everyone's scared of him when he loses his temper.
Yeah. He's an amazing character, he's an amazing actor, Tim Curry, an amazing actor. It is just one of the most maddest films I think I've ever seen. I went to a showing of it down in the West End once, and me and my friend Catherine, we dressed up as Riff Raff and Magenta, and we went there, and it was like one of them sort of audience participation ones where you get your little bag of goodies and you're holding up the certain bits for certain bits of the scene.
Chucking rice and cards,
and it was just an amazing, everyone was dressed up, and it was just such an amazing experience. This film is just loved by so many people, and still for generations to come, it's going to still capture an audience for forever. It is like, it's like 3 years off being 50 years old.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Or 2 years off. What is it? Yeah, 2 years off being 50 years old. It was made in 1975.
Yeah.
So you think, bloody hell, how... This in them days, it must have been, what is this? If you think... Because, I mean, even now, if it was to come out, it would have shocked people. But in them days, they must have looked and thought, like having heart attacks kind of thing.
At the same time, there is nothing that bad. No, there's no... It's so cleverly done, like they were having silhouettes and stuff, when he's seducing Janet and then Brad. And what was funny is I watched it. I showed Lily this film for the first time the other day, and I thought...
She'd never seen it before.
No, and I remember even now when you rewatch it and he runs in dressed as Janet. Oh, Brad! I want to go in. You still think, but it looks like it could be Janet in silhouette, and then he pulls it so effortlessly. I think
that probably is Janet in silhouette.
I don't think it is, because...
And I think that is Brad in silhouette, but then they've done it in a way... No, because
it's so... The film is so poorly made, because the budget is so low. They're editing and everything like that, but it works with it because it's so kitsch.
It's supposed to be like a B-movie, and it looks like a B-movie.
But that's why I'm saying with the silhouettes... It must have been Tim Curry running in.
Yeah, maybe
it was probably their voices. It would have been... she would have been standing by the side, staying the voice, and he just had to sort of act her out.
Yeah.
And then Brad pull off her wig, and it revealed it's Tim Curry.
It's just brilliant.
The way he does sort of like... As I said, he can do like intimidating, and then he can sort of just be funny, and he could be all upset about things.
Yeah.
Like the way
he's brilliant.
The way he gets upset, has a tantrum when he says, "What do you think?" And she goes, "Well, I don't like men with too many muscles. I didn't make him for you." It's so funny the way he's so proud of his achievement.
Yeah. He's brilliant. But the thing is, obviously, it had been a stage show beforehand. And a majority of the cast, including Tim Curry, Richard O'Brien, Patricia Quinn, Little Nell, they'd all, maybe a couple of others as well, they'd all actually come from the stage and then done the movie. So they had done this performance, they'd done it like 100 plus times at least. So they was so comfortable in their roles. So by the time it got to screen, they knew exactly what they was doing. So,
but Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick, they auditioned for it.
Yeah, I think they was brought in.
Yeah, because Steve Martin auditioned to play Brad, which would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But he was passed over for Barry Bostwick because Barry Bostwick had just received a Tony nomination, for creating the role of Danny Zuko in Grease. So he was like the first.
Oh, in 1972, wasn't it?
In 1972, yeah. So you got to think.
That's before, obviously, the Grease that we know.
Oh yeah, because the play for Grease was different much different for the film. But we'll talk about that when we do Grease. But I think Steve Martin would have made a good Brad. I think. You know,
if we'd not seen Barry Bostwick, then we would never would have known the difference.
No, and we would have gone, what a great part for Steve Martin to play, but he still would have been blown out of the water by Tim Curry. Because they're all great. It's a fantastic cast. Susan Sarandon's
every single one in this cast. There's not one person that I think is weak. Yeah. Every single person is perfectly cast for this film.
I used to think, when I was younger, who's the actor who plays Rocky?
Peter Hinwood.
Right. I used to think that he was the weak link because there were so many little signs in it. But watching it more recently, I thought, no, he's deliberately playing like a moron. He's playing like the dumbed down person. And I think, obviously, he's hired for he had to have someone with like a good physique to play the part.
Well, interesting thing about Peter Hinwood, he was actually an underwear model. He'd had no acting experience, and all of his speaking lines were cut, and his singing voice was dubbed over by a bloke called Trevor White. But it works because he looks like I think he's brand new, and he looks a little bit. He had to be like a rabbit in the headlights kind of thing, doesn't he? He's got that kind of thing, but it works. It really does work, and I think even though he distanced himself from the film after this, and he didn't do acting obviously because he wasn't an actor anyway. I think maybe a couple of years after this, from what I knew, if he still is, but I know him and his partner had like an antiques shop like in the West London somewhere, and I think either the partner died or he may have died or he may still be alive, but he's sort of kept out the spotlight, so he doesn't have nothing to do with reunions or anything. It's something that he just cut off at that point, you know. But he was very good. I mean, he's very good in it. So we were talking about the cast. There was Tim Curry, who's obviously known for the films Clue, Home Alone 2, It, Legend, Susan Sarandon. Who?
Worst Witch.
Oh, and of course, the Worst Witch as well, which is
Annie.
And Annie, I forgot about that. Yeah, of course, she's in Annie.
Yeah,
Annie and the Worst
for Red
Witch.
October.
Yeah.
Fern Gully.
Oh, he's done quite a lot.
The Wild Thornberrys.
Oh.
He was. Sorry, the reason I mentioned all that. 3 Men in a Boat. Past the Ammo.
Yeah.
I used to play this game on the film set whenever I was on film sets, when I'd say to someone, right, you play this game where you name an actor and you got a bid as how many their films you can name, and my trump card was always Tim Curry, because I knew almost every one of his films he's been in, and he's been in like 200. He's done like 200 things.
Yeah, see, a lot of them you just mentioned, the last ones. I remember, like, obviously, the ones I didn't mention was Annie, Worst Witch, but the ones after that.
Past the Ammo and 3 Men in a Boat are ones I got you to specifically get for me. I thought, I want to see more Tim Curry performances.
Yeah.
This is about the time that I got to work with him. He done a message for Lily as well, where he just said, oh, thank you so much for being a fan of mine, Lily. This is, of course, after he's had his stroke, because he had a stroke a few years ago, didn't he? Where he's now in a wheelchair. Yeah. And he hasn't had as much work because he needs to get his voice back. His voice is his real calling card.
Oh, cool, sure.
He's done so many films, and he was the voice of the Joker from the original Batman series, and he'd recorded 6 episodes, and they said he's too scary. They said his voice is too scary for kids, so they got Mark Hamill in. He also was going to play Doom from Roger Rabbit. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, okay.
No, the part that went to Christopher Lloyd.
It would have been good.
Originally, they screen tested Tim Curry, and they said it's too scary.
Yeah,
it's far too because when he does scary, he does really scary. Yeah. You know, anyone who's seen Pennywise in It, they can see he does that without he's got his makeup on, but he hasn't got special effects. Yeah. You know, he just looks.
He looks terribly
when
scary,
he wants to turn it on.
Yeah,
he'll make them scared. Yeah, one of my proudest moments was when I got to work with Tim Curry for a film. The film's yet to be released, but we got to talk to him. I had to go to a studio in Soho. Tim Curry went to a studio in Los Angeles. We got to speak to him over the internet and record his voice for this film. And I used the opportunity to sort of gush over him and say, listen, I've been such a huge fan of yours. You know, you're my favourite actor. Because he is. I think he is my favourite actor.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Because every role that he does, whether it's in Annie or Worst Witch or or Home Alone 2, he stills the scenes. Whenever he's in a scene, you look at him. Because you think the little facial expressions, or he's such a great theatre actor as well. And it's rare that a great theatre actor can transition into film.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're too over the top. But he does it in the right way. You know, he does enough subtle mannerisms that can sort of carry it through. And of course, this was... I could understand how for years he probably wanted to distance himself a little bit from Rocky Horror.
Yeah, that's why you didn't mention it to him, did you?
No, I deliberately didn't mention it to him because I thought, well, everyone must mention it to him all the time. So I mentioned Clue and Worst Witch. Because Clue could possibly be my favourite Tim Curry film.
That's the first thing you see, though, wasn't it, of his? I think.
Clue?
Yeah.
I think it probably was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I won't keep mentioning films that he's in. Apparently, he modelled Frank-N-Furter's voice after two women, Queen Elizabeth II and his mother.
Yeah, I heard that. I've heard that. Also, as I was saying, so that was Tim Curry. Susan Sarandon, who's well known, obviously, for the films Thelma and Louise, The Witches of Eastwick, Enchanted, Stepmom. There's loads. She's done loads and loads of stuff, hasn't she? I don't think any of the other actors in it have done any major big films.
No, I don't think so.
I think Meatloaf too. Meatloaf, obviously, a fantastic singer.
And he's also been in he's had a fairly decent film career. He was in Fight Club, and he was in Pick of Destiny, Tenacious D. So he's a decent actor.
I like Meatloaf. Yeah, he was very good, and he's fantastic in this show as well.
Yeah, sadly passed away. What was it, last year? I think.
I know it's recent. Yeah, last year before.
Although Richard O'Brien, I knew before this because he was the host of Crystal Maze.
Right.
Which was a show on Channel 4.
It came out after this, but you obviously hadn't seen that. I was a
kid. Yeah, I hadn't seen Rocky Horror at this point, but I knew him from this. He was this strange, skinny, bald man running about all excited.
Yeah. So I'd never seen Crystal Maze as well, I'd never seen it. And it's I'd heard of it. It wasn't something I ever watched, but obviously I know him from Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah. It had a great theme tune.
Yeah.
But, yeah, of course, Richard O'Brien wrote the Rocky Horror Picture Show, wrote all the music. He himself, I remember him saying that he doesn't consider himself a great musician, but that's why the songs work. Yeah. Because he kept it simple and catchy.
Yeah.
And it does, because the songs in this are so memorable.
Yeah.
And you just, when you hear them, you can't help but sing along.
Yeah.
Even just now, coming around here, I'd just finished work, and I thought, right, I'll listen to the Rocky Horror soundtrack.
Yeah.
And just now, I was at the lights down the road from you, there was a car came up behind me, like this Golf speed car, and he had his bass go boom, 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 like music really loud. And my music goes quite loud, and I just jammed my music up really loud. And it was halfway through Sweet Transvestite. And I thought, I don't care. I'm just a sweet... And I've come all the way up to your lights, and there's some poor old couple sitting in front looking behind. And I'm looking back at this other guy behind me. I literally only just turned it off as I came to yours. But it's got to be one of the best musical soundtracks I can think of, because I can't really think of a song in it which is a dud for me. There's
ones you really love, but even the ones you're not so like loving are they're all great. They're all great songs.
And some of them I find they grow on you later. Yeah. It's like that I'm Going Home one that he sings at the end. When I was younger, I never cared for it.
Yeah.
But as I was older, I was liking how he sort of gets right into it, and it's actually really good words.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. There's some facts about it as well. Apparently, Princess Diana absolutely loved it, and Tim Curry recalls saying, like with a very wicked smile, that it quite completed her education. So, as I say, everyone just absolutely... It was like everyone just loved this film.
And this is the weird thing, even though Tim Curry, the way he's dressed, you automatically assume straight away, oh, okay, well, he's a gay man. You know, but women just sort of... They fantasize about him, and women love him.
Yeah.
I found, even when I was dressed as Frank-N-Furter at your party, I had more attention than usual. And there was a famous picture I see someone had put on the internet of Prince, like, because Prince obviously wears quite effeminate clothing and stilettos and makeup, and it said, the only man who can dress like a woman and still steal your girl.
Yeah.
And underneath someone put Frank-N-Furter saying, bitch, please.
Yeah. Also another fact about this, the skeleton in the clock was a real skeleton, and it's rumoured to be the Italian lover of the Countess of Roslin. After his death, she couldn't bear to be separated from him, so she immortalised him in the clock and took him everywhere with her. And this clock, including the skeleton, it sold at Sotheby's for 35 grand in 2002. It's a bit weird that it's a real skeleton.
But I can imagine, the thing I noticed with this film as well is the set design. It wasn't, you can imagine, it weren't really thought out. No. It's like they had a general idea, but they must have just gone to... Oh yeah, no, it works with the film because it works with Frank-N-Furter, because they obviously went to probably like charity shops and thought, well, that will do, and they just, it's so eclectic, it's such random stuff scattered, and they just want to fill the place, and it does work. Although with the set designers did forget to put in a door in the laboratory, in Frank-N-Furter's lab. That's why Dr. Scott comes smashing through the wall.
Oh, okay.
Because he was supposed to come through a door, but he smashed through the wall instead. Which again works.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. The film doesn't make sense. There's so many inconsistencies, but you think, I don't care. Yeah. It's so fun. Like all of a sudden he's got this magnet that can drag someone in a wheelchair all the way upstairs, and then he uses it to turn them into statues. Yeah. You know, it's crazy.
It's so camp. It is just brilliant, and I will never ever borrow this film, and I know that for facts. I could watch this film again and again, and I would never sit and go, oh, I think I've had its day with it now. Never, because it's just such an experience to watch it, and as I say, especially if you watch it in a cinema. It's that, and you get everyone around you that gets it. It is such an experience. So I recommend if anyone has the opportunity. I mean, I've even seen, like when I used to work in the Forum down in Kentish Town, when I was about 21. So we're talking 28 years ago. Right, they had a showing of the Rocky Horror Show. They actually done a play there, and it's like 7 or 8 showings of it. And I think I got Mum and one of her sisters tickets to go and see it. And that's the first time Mum had seen it. Absolutely loved it, because the stage show is even more risque than the film, because they could get away with a lot more on this. And it was just like, wow, what is this? What is this show? Like, it's just amazing. Also, apparently, Susan Sarandon was sick with the flu during the filming of the floor show scene, and she was shaking with fever.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was like, I've heard that as well before. And because it was shot in the winter, and there was one designated warm room that the cast would go to in between takes, but then that caught fire. So not much luck, really.
So they're all walking about like next to...
So you think it was... I think it was shot between October and December. Patricia Quinn, who sang the original opening with the red lips, her lips was used even though it was dubbed over by Richard O'Brien, and she threatened to drop out of the movie because as soon as she found this out.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, because I suppose maybe in the stage show it was her singing it with the lips. But then in the film version, he dubbed over singing. But it works.
Yeah,
it works.
He dubs it well, because it looks like him singing it.
Yeah. She has got lovely teeth and like nice lips and all that. I mean, you look. Yeah, it works really well, and it's such an unusual opening as well. Like, it's all blacked out apart from these big red lips and white teeth and pink tongue. It's just brilliant.
Which I was wondering the other day when we was watching it, we was discussing. I wonder how they done that on such a limited budget.
Yeah, in such a good way. Because even today, you look at it, I mean, you'd think that maybe they blacked out everything or whatever, or they're sharp, but then to make the lips stand out so much,
fabric and stuff,
maybe through, but you don't know.
It's really well made, that part.
And Richard O'Brien borrowed the famous line, "Don't dream it, be it," from the back of a magazine. Oh. Actually, I love that saying. That's a saying that was stuck with me all my life, and I've just loved that. You know, every now and again you hear a quote, and that's one of them ones that sort of stick with you.
Him and his wife, Kimmy Wong, they both make a cameo in the wedding scene as Transylvanians.
Richard O'Brien. Okay. Yeah. But Richard O'Brien's in the film, though. He's riff-raff.
Yeah, I know, but they're also in the wedding scene, because of course you spot him in the background.
If you see, there's cameos by Tim Curry, Patricia Quinn, and Little Nell, you know,
and Richard
O'Brien. Yeah, Richard O'Brien. So there's the 4 main characters. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, it's just brilliant. From start to finish, this film is just amazing. I just love it.
And during that scene as well, Richard O'Brien says that him and Patricia Quinn had smoked something exotic before filming the song.
Well, that don't surprise me. 1975.
No. He initially wanted the first 20 minutes of the movie to be black and white, like Wizard of Oz, then switch to colour when Frank-N-Furter enters.
Yeah. Would have worked. Probably would have worked.
The idea was scrapped by 20th Century Fox, though. They said no. Which, I mean, I wouldn't want to touch it. I wouldn't want to change anything about it.
Oh, no.
But I'm sure it would have worked to some degree. It would have been like, oh, it's brilliant. It's just like how Wizard of Oz changes from black and white to colour.
That's quite a long... Isn't that quite a long gap, though? And they've got like things like the time warp and stuff, which I think you need the colour for.
So, Sarandon, she was ill for the stage show.
The stage show bit. You know, when they have to... I think that's also the bit when she has to go in the water and all that.
And when she steps on his foot... Barry Bostwick's foot. There's a scene. I even noticed it when I was a kid. When she steps backwards, you see suddenly goes with his heels.
Yeah, but she's she had to jump in the water. Now, as I said earlier, this was shot between October and December in England, so this would have been freezing. So like, they didn't have the budget to heat everything up. So I assume that the pool must have been heated. I don't know where the pool was. I don't know if the pool maybe might not have been in the actual place where it's supposed to be. The place where they filmed it, maybe that never had a pool. I don't know.
It's weird because it starts off a stage, then it turns into a pool, and then it's like a stage again almost.
Yeah.
Do you know who designed his look, Frank-N-Furter's look?
No.
It's a famous makeup artist called Pierre Laroche. He done the makeup for Mick Jagger and created David Bowie's iconic Ziggy Stardust makeup.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
But it took him 4 hours to apply it, so in the end, Tim Curry started doing it himself.
Yeah, but I'm sure for the film it was applied. Like, it probably took 4 hours to do on the film. But when you're doing something on stage, you get used to exactly what you're going to do. You know, doing it every single day, you sort of know, right, that, and that. Get a quick version of it.
In the stage production, Eddie and Dr. Scott were actually played by the same actor.
Yeah. I think they wanted to do that in the film as well. I think Meat Loaf actually wanted to play both the roles.
He could, I suppose he could have.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't have faith in his acting abilities at that point.
Yeah.
Or they wanted the older man. Although he said that he was a really good Dr. Scott in an interview. He couldn't ride a motorcycle though. No. So a body double was used for Hot Patootie in close-ups, and the star was rolling in the wheelchair when he's going round.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on IMDb, this film ranks 7.4, which is quite good for IMDb.
Yeah.
And Rotten Tomatoes, critics 79%, audience 85%. Now, I would have thought that would have been higher. I don't know. I would have thought, but I suppose, you know...
I can also see why there's many people would watch this and just not get it, or just feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Some people aren't comfortable with that kind of liberation. They just think, oh, I feel uncomfortable. I don't know where to look.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I did when I first see it as like a teenager or early teens or maybe in my like 10, 11, 12, whatever. So it made me sort of feel like, oh wow, what's this? I felt like I was watching something dirty, because at that time, in them days, there was very little like that on TV. But anyway, the box office, it cost 1.4 million to make and made 226 million. So that is pretty good, isn't it?
So since then, it's made 200.
It's probably making more. It's probably continuing.
Because I doubt it made that from its initial release, because it was the epitome, as I said, the epitome of a cult film.
Yeah,
it didn't do great. Like Meat Loaf and the director Jim Sharman, they bought tickets for a screening in the Midwest out in America, and they were the only two people who turned up.
Really? Yeah, it was a very slow burner, but it's now like it's a cult classic now. It's like everyone can say it word for word. The people that love it will know it word for word. They look forward to going to like the big performances of it, and it will always be sold out. It'll always have an audience. Always have an audience.
Well, it wasn't released on VHS in America until 1990.
That's quite late, isn't it?
And it was retailed at $89.95.
That's it. So they sort of put it down as like porn.
No, but this is what I was saying before. VHS, the videos did used to be a lot more expensive. Out in America, you'd have to spend stupid amount of money to get them, like a proper copy or something. Many movies and TV shows have paid tribute to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, like Fame, Glee, The Drew Carey Show, The 70s Show, Third Rock from the Sun, CSI New York, Charles in Charge, Halloween 2, Loser, Men in Black, Vice Squad, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Halloween 2?
Apparently. It's the tight mask he wears. But I also noticed there's a reference to it, a very strong reference to it, in an episode of Bob's Burgers. There's an episode of Bob's Burgers where Bob is really excited. They don't say Rocky Horror Picture Show. They make out it's something else, but this film is clearly based on the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He said, "Oh, it's great. The audience participates, and you've got all these weird people dressed about in like these like women's clothing and stuff." But when I was watching it, I was thinking it's clearly a Rocky Horror reference. Tim Curry's advice to future Frank-N-Furters, if you're ever going to dress up as him, never think about it as drag. Because it's not. It's just what people wear in Transylvania, so just get over it.
That's so Tim Curry, isn't it?
But I remember when I was dressed up as Tim Curry and I was at your party, I wasn't putting on the voice all the time. I was just like, what are you looking at? You're all right. And it just made it funny, just sort of, just going against type, Rocky Horror Picture Show is the record holder for the longest theatrical release in history. It continues to play in theatres across the United States and the UK, even to this day. So the filming locations: the castle exterior, the criminologist's study, Brad's room, Janet's room, the dining room, Columbia's room, the entrance hall and stairs were all shot at Oakley Court, Windsor Road, Oakley Green, Windsor.
And apparently that's like a hotel now. I think you can actually stay there.
Oh, I'd love to stay
there.
there.
Wouldn't it be good? I hope that they've sort of done it up a little bit like that, or they've kept a little bit of it. Obviously it's probably modernised a lot, but it'd be nice if there's a little touch of Rocky Horror there still, Yeah. Because a lot of people would go there just for that reason.
The church exterior was in Berkshire.
Right.
So it was all shot in the UK.
Yeah.
It did feel American though, the church. Yeah. I think it was well cast, as it were.
Yeah. And apparently, I think, the bit when the house flies away...
That was a cardboard cutout.
So that was a cardboard cutout, I think, that sort of they lifted off. But yeah, so, I mean, I absolutely love this film. Absolutely love it. I know there's so much more that we've probably forgotten to mention, like the facts about this film.
Well, here's one. Tim Curry and Richard O'Brien were the only two who knew that Eddie's body was under the table.
Yeah.
So when he does the big reveal and they all sort of scream.
So that's their real reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, there's so much more that I know that when I go back and I think, I forgot that or I forgot that. But I think we've got quite a lot of information here, and it is a film that just keeps on giving, and I absolutely love it. It just takes you to a different place, and and I think a lot of people agree with me with that. It's a brilliant film. So, and I take it you like it as well, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's definitely up there as one of my favourite musicals.
Yeah.
It's so catchy. It holds up to this day.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned about her stepping on Barry Bostwick's foot, he'd actually hit her hand. When he bangs on the table, and he says, "God damn it!" at the dinner table.
So she got her revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really well cast. Susan Sarandon's really proud of this role, because a lot of people over the years was going as though, she weren't proud of it and all this, so she tried to distance herself from it. She's always gone, no, that's not the case. I'm really proud of that role. She absolutely loves the role. She thinks she's really proud that she was in it.
Well, whenever they do reunions, she's usually there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, she's probably the biggest out of all the stars.
Yeah.
That's come out of it.
I think possibly people assumed that she tried to distance herself because, of course, both her and Barry Bostwick, they didn't return for the sequel.
Yeah.
The little known sequel, the Shock Treatment.
Yeah, it's not as good. It's not
as good, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those ones. It was always going to be in the shadow of Rocky Horror. Nothing can sort of live up to it. If it had come before Rocky Horror, maybe it would have been treated kinder. The songs aren't as good, but they're still catchy songs.
There's two catchy songs in it. I think there's Lullaby. I think it's called Lullaby. Yeah. And that one about
Bitching in the Kitchen.
Toaster, Bitching in the Kitchen.
Yeah,
I like them too. They were quite catchy. But there's a lot of it, and Rick Mel's in it, and we love Rick Mel. But there's a lot.
But it's only a small part.
Yeah, but there's a lot in it that I just feel that it was such a big thing to live up to that. Even though they're not playing the same characters, but it's got like a lot of the same cast. But apart from, you can see the one that was supposed to be Tim Curry. The one that was supposed to be Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick. Yeah. You know that they was meant to be them characters, but obviously this is a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And
by that point, they'd all Sarandon and Tim Curry, definitely their careers was really taking off at that point, because you think it's about the time that Curry was doing Annie. Yeah. Which was obviously huge. He then went on to do Legend and Clue a couple of years later. Yeah. So. And he very nearly got cast as the Joker in the '89 Batman.
Oh, did he?
With Tim Burton, which I think he would have been. I love Jack Nicholson in Batman, but I think it was the role that Tim Curry in a way should have played. He's never actually played the Joker, but he'd do it so well because he's got that grin.
Yeah,
you know.
he would have been a brilliant Joker. He would have
yeah.
been fantastic. But yeah, so yeah, absolutely fantastic film, and I'm glad I chose this one this week because it's we haven't done a musical for a while. I think the last musical we done, what was it? Was Bed Knobs and Broomsticks?
Yeah,
and that was quite a way back, wasn't it? But yeah, okay, so that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out, yeah, if you haven't seen it, if you dare.
Yeah, and next week I'm going from one womanising crossdresser to another.
Yeah.
With Purple Rain.
Oh, okay.
Prince.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Well, you have to watch it then.
Yeah, well, obviously, if I've got to review it.
I will try and bring in our resident Prince expert, hopefully.
Oh yeah, our brother.
Yes. Who knows everything
our brother.
about
Yeah,
Prince.
it'd be nice. So you get to meet our other brother, the one that's actually the one in between me and you, age-wise.
Yeah.
Okay, well that'd be good. Our brother George will hopefully be joining us next week.
Yeah.
To talk about Purple Rain because he absolutely loves Prince.
And yeah, he's like a walking encyclopedia on Prince.
Yeah, exactly. He'll know more than any of us. And if ever he listens to the podcast, he'll be going, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention this. So it's just best to get him in. Basically, it'll be him talking and me and Charlie just be going, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you very much for listening and we hope you've enjoyed this podcast and we will hopefully catch you next week. So bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dream it. Be it. Don't dream it. Be it. Don't dream it.